Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your social media sales hero. And hey, it's all about websites. And we have today the expert in the area on websites. And it's my good friend, Andy Collins, and he's my CIO, mine and yours too, okay? So Andy, first of all, you're all about websites, but what's CIO stand for? Help me out. I'm not very good with acronyms.
Yeah. Well, for 25, 30 years now, I've been working with computers all the way from starting out as a programmer and then ended up being the manager of information systems. And through that, the chief information officer is the highest level of a computer officer that runs the IT or the information technology infrastructure of a company. And that covers anywhere from the wiring in the walls, the computers, to the networks, to the internetwork or the internet itself, and how you utilize that for all kinds of business. But we're going to specifically talk, I think, today about just you as a local business person. Do you even need a website and that type of stuff?
Well, let's role play. Let's pretend I'm a business owner.
Okay.
Okay, I know that's hard for you, but just use your imagination. All right, I have this building, I have a product, I have employees. Why do I need a website?
Okay, it's surprisingly, you would think that a lot of people have websites, but about 40% of businesses don't even have websites right now. And traditionally, they will be smaller if they don't have them, but at the same time, that's a pretty sizable number. So if you're a business owner and you don't have a website, you're going to want to listen to this show. And if you do have a website, we might be able to talk to you about some things that you're seeing that your website isn't doing. So we'll talk about those also included in this program.
Do you think a website is just as important as the brick and mortar, so to speak? I always wanted to ask you that. So,
well, brick and mortar we would define as the building itself, and the website now is your presence, is your online presence, is your way to the world. If you think about maybe how people found you in the first place, how did people find you as a business person? They found you through the yellow pages.
traditional ways.
If you advertise on TV or other things. But right now, even those medias are telling you to go visit the website. So a website can be a place where you can describe everything that your business does, and you can list all the things you would do in a brochure. And because one page doesn't cost that much different than 2 pages and 15 pages, you can get a lot of information, and it's all in color, which, color printing used to be, to do a brochure was very expensive. So now you have, and you can even put up video, which you couldn't put in your flat two-dimensional marketing. So it's a marketing piece, but it is kind of your business, your brick and mortar, or your door to the world. I can actually come in and now even shop for things totally online. I didn't even come and see you face to face or go through your doors.
Now, besides video, what other things can you actually put on a website that's important to people I'm trying to find?
Well, the simplest and most important things are, how do I get a hold of you? How do I do business with you? For most people, for a small business probably, they would still have, calls, phone calls. What are your hours of operation? All the general information. If you think of anything that you're constantly answering the phone and saying, how late are you open? What do you sell? Do you have this? Almost all of that information can be up on a website. People can get the information. They don't have to kind of waste your time answering those questions, because they can get the information. Then when they're talking to you, they're talking about the things that are really important. Do you have it in green? Do you have this in, do you work these hours? If I needed someone to help me with my plumbing or get my painting done after hours, can you do that? Those types of things. Well, yes, in your case, we might be able to accommodate you, because now you've entered into a dialogue with them, because they took care of just the standard information. So that would be the first tier of information, just your standard business operation, hours, phone number, how to contact you, those
Just
types
pretty
of things.
basic. It's not rocket science, actually, what you
No,
mean.
just real simple. Like a brochure. If I was to give you a business card, that would be first level. Brochure would be second level, third level. Then you start getting into the marketing pieces and displaying your wares on your store shelves.
Well, I get a feeling as a business owner, I really be able to cut my brochure costs in half, or none, zero, because what's it cost really to print something on the website just to see it? I mean, zero practically.
Well, it's just your time and energy, and so you might still have the same production costs in terms of website or graphic design, but you wouldn't have, like I said, the difference between one page. There's a small element of what we would call web traffic, the amount of stuff that goes back and forth. So maybe we should probably start at the very.
No, I think what Andy's trying to say is no trees were killed during this website creation. So for those people who are really concerned about the environment, sustainability, I think a website, you've convinced me, is the way to go. Now, Andy, traditionally, I try to advertise in the Sunday paper or the Sunday, whatever is popular, and it's just like a lot of noise. I don't even know how my people are actually seeing it. So how does a business owner like myself or some of my friends, how do they actually find the website in the midst of the worldwide internet, all over the world?
I think that's where I really want to focus in and help the business owners of the local community, is that it is a tricky business. It has really taken over. When you think about doing business, you think about how you even find someone. If I want to find a plumber because something's broken, or if I want to find a house painter, or if I need someone to do some medical thing and I don't know friends and relatives that would recommend someone to me, I would say that almost the term Google it is very real. So that's how people find you. So it is very important. I think you've got to be careful when you do your website development and everything else that you design it in such a way as to get found. I think I'll talk a little bit more later on about a lot of those techniques, but right now maybe we're too far ahead of the game. What we may need to start on, what do you need to have a website?
I mean, you called the word Googling. Is there a generic term for it? Searching, browsing? I mean, what are some of the terms you can educate our viewers on?
Well, right. I think most people actually, that part of it, I think our generation is moved up to, somehow we know that we type something into the top bar. I mean, even if we're not computer savvy, whether we even know what we're doing, we just type something in this space and it finds the information for us. We don't know how it's done or any of that stuff. But Google is certainly what we would call a search engine. Yahoo is a search engine. There's plenty of others, that they start going from there. Bing, I guess, is a big one they put a lot of advertising into. But I bet you didn't know what the second most used search engine is. When you think of the first search engine, we all think of Google.
I know this is a trick question, so why don't you just give me the answer?
Most people would think it's Yahoo as number 2, but actually the second most searched place to find things is YouTube. So actually YouTube and all of their videos has come a long way from their first initial days to where we now search things. But normally those are specific, what we're searching for, but they do have more searches than even Yahoo does. But Google is the number 1. That's the big gorilla on the block.
Now, I have to admit, as a business owner, I have the people outside wearing the signs. I've stand up on the tallest building. I've thrown flyers out. I advertise in the yellow pages. But Andy, I got to tell you, I don't have a website, and I have no idea how to build one. So what's a business like mine need to have to get started?
Okay. On the internet, the way we get found is we get found through what's called a domain name. Now, the perfect domain name is yourbusinessname.com, Sears.com, anything else. Sometimes when you have a business, Somebody's already taken that. Now what do we do? Another good way to, but anyway, you have to come up with, not just did you have to come up with your business on your brick and mortar, as you call it, the name that's on the outside of the sign.
Right.
But you do need a way for people to find you on the website. So you need a domain name. And you may think of, if you've heard a lot of GoDaddy.com as a place, they're what's called a domain name registrar. But they're just one of many. And normally nowadays you probably can plan on spending somewhere between $7, $8 to $30 a year. That's all. And you get to use that domain name. And you want to try and put it, if you like the name and it's working for you, you do want to lock that up for a long time. And they have renewals that they don't let it go, but there are things you want to make sure you find a domain name that you can work with. And then you need what's called a hosting company, somewhere that, and sometimes some businesses will do both. You can get it at a domain register and the hosting at the same place. And sometimes you can get many other services. But the two things you really need is a domain name, and then you need a place to put your website so that all of the things that you see are found and they actually display to you. And then I guess the third thing would be you need either someone or somehow to form a language that will take all of that information that you've got stored in that location or hosting or is hosted on the internet, and then it needs to be translated to your screen. And that you hear of things called HTML or JavaScript or PHP. There's a lot of different languages. They're basically just a computer language telling the hosting company to do something to display it onto the person that's browsing into their computer screen that will display all the information you want to say. So those are really the three elements. You need a computer language or a program that will display the information, that takes it from the hosting company, that goes and gets your specific information or your domain name.
So Andy, is there anything else besides those three things you mentioned that they can get more out of?
There are plenty of more things. So what we want to do is keep it simple. Those are really the three things they need to focus on first. But there are some things that are pretty nice to have, and that is sometimes you want to give away something free. We bring them to what we call a landing page or a place where they have to, in exchange for an email address, we'll give them something for free. That's a good way to establish business relationship to start. Also show a little bit of your expertise. If you were to come to my website, you could get a free display of how an internet or how a CIO, how a company needs to have all of these elements. And in exchange, then you would give me your email address. And then beyond that, you can either then take those emails that you get and respond to them personally, or there are some great programs that will automatically send out emails on your behalf that you've pre-written once that will go out. So a good example, I have another website because I like to coach kids in baseball, and I give free hitting lessons. And what they do is they give me their email address, and without my having to do anything, it goes into what's called an autoresponder sequence, and for 7 days they get the 7 tips towards hitting better at a baseball or girls softball. And so that's kind of a way of starting the business relationship. That's an autoresponder.
Right.
It does normally cost a little bit extra. So is it a step you need right away? No, you need those first 3 things. But there are those things. Then there's the whole world that we'll talk about maybe a little later because you love it so much is the social
world.
media is, there's all these, do I need a Facebook page? Do I need a Twitter feed? Do I need a LinkedIn is a business model of social media? There's all kinds of things you can get into, but if you have started with nothing, let's kind of keep with the basics.
I get a feeling we're just scratching the surface. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
more I listen to Sandy, the more I realize you need him because he speaks language. I barely speak English. So I understand a majority of what he says, but it shows you that we need people like you, Andy, in this world that show us how to do it. Like, for instance, to explain what you hear a lot, search engine optimization.
Okay.
Is it a big deal?
Well, that goes back, and I told you we would circle back to this whole area of how do you get found. Okay, now we've built our website, but what difference does it make if nobody ever sees it?
Really? It's like a store with nobody coming in, right?
It's like, it's kind of like that the internet has now become our yellow pages. And if you can imagine one that goes from the floor to the ceiling, and then you try and put just one little line of type and jam it in there, and somebody that's trying to flip through this is going to find you. It's like a needle in a haystack. It literally is. So what you want to do is you now need, yes, we in the professional field have this term we call search engine optimization, or SEO. So if you hear that, that's what we're talking about, is getting the search engine, again, search engine being like Google or Yahoo or something, to be optimized in such a way that as we are typing in, like I said, my water heater goes out in the middle of the night. Who do I call? I used to go to the yellow pages, looked up plumbers, so I had to know that. Now the kind of interesting thing is that there's all kinds of terms. Different people search it differently. I might say water heater broken, and you might say need plumber now. In each of these terms are what we call, even though there's actually 3 or 4 words in that, they're called terms, and so we want to optimize certain pages so that when somebody that needs my services can find me, they type that in, they will find me. And that's what we want to do. So it does take either a program or a professional that comes along and helps coordinate. Now, there are certain rules that you could follow. You could actually learn all of this yourself and go through and say, okay, there's things like your title tag and your meta tags, and does the alt tag in your picture describe the same terms? There's a lot of these different rules, which you can find you can go to the internet to find these terms. And so how to optimize a web page. Now, you as a business owner may think, I just want to know my trade. I don't really want to learn that, and that's fine. There are plenty of people that do this type of thing that will help get your site found. And then the good news is I don't have to now. That's the other thing about search engine optimization. You want to be found in the area that you want to be found in. I don't want to have somebody calling me from Boston that, in the middle of the night, because their water heater's broken, I want to, only the people that I could get to, that are really
accessible to you.
So you try and also help tighten yourself. You don't have to, you're tighten your focus on what people will call you, because that'll save you time and money and headache.
It sounds like it's getting simpler, like with technology. I think a lot of people have heard, you said languages, HTML is a language, codes. Are we going to a more simple structure that people can use, or you teach people how to use?
Well, there's actually a number of different ways. There's actually tools that are actually pre-made templates that you just plug in. Here's a good-looking banner. I like that. Here's the name of my company. I put that in. I want to tell them, here's my phone, my hours. There are even free sites that you can do right now. We'll probably, I don't want to get them because I'll get them wrong. So maybe at some point we will try and get the magic of TV
There you go.
to put on we'll be running along the bottom here of some places that you can go and find these types of templates. One place a lot of people have heard a lot about, if they've had any exposure to the internet, is WordPress. You can, it's almost like you're blogging or writing a business log, or the blog that you would tell people about whatever you're interested in. Well, you happen to be interested in your own business, so that can be a way of getting a website up and running and free. Now, what you do with that, you either do your own domain name, that goes back to how you get one, or you actually become a name of somebody else's website. Say, for example, WordPress. I think it's WordPress.com, I'm not sure, or org, I'm not, we'll have that corrected before this show goes to air. But you can be Joe's Pizza Shop .wordpress.com, but in a sense, even though you are advertising your own company, you're also advertising them. So you really kind of want Joe's Pizza Shop, if that was available, .com. And .coms, to be honest, there are actually a number of ways. If .com isn't available, there's .biz, there's .info, there's this and that. .com is really the way to go, though. It's still the, like they have 800 numbers and they have 866 numbers, but we're still not sure what those are.
Yeah.
800 is the one you always
Still
wanted.
popular.
So same thing. .com is the big one that you want to get.
Now, how does social media actually tie into this and help businesses? Because I'm sure you get a lot of, well, Andy, is this going to get me business? And so...
Yeah, I've had an interesting discussion with people. As long as you use the social media product the way it's intended to be used, there are some benefits to doing that. There are, like I said, let's just name the big ones. We probably have Facebook. MySpace is probably for a younger generation, so if you're selling records, but even that one is tending to go away. Facebook, Twitter is another one. YouTube itself, some people think of it as only a video site, but it actually is, in a sense, a social media gathering place as well. And another one, a big one for business, is LinkedIn. They position themselves to be for business and to make contacts and so forth. So that one's actually one that is a real good way for businesses to kind of make connections, especially if you do business to business. LinkedIn is a great way to develop a social media presence to start. I think some people think, though, that those are very similar. You want to be, I had someone call me the other day and they said, well, how can I be ranked #1 on Facebook for when they type in this search term? They didn't quite get the concept that Facebook isn't about searching, it's about making connections. So it can be helpful because in those connections, who do you know that you would recommend that does great pizza, does plumbing, does painting, whatever, does search engine optimization. Sometimes you can use those connections, so being on those connections is helpful. And they'll pass you their link. And then Twitter is another one. It's really hard to understand all of the aspects of it. But any one of these, as I said, that wouldn't be your first choice of where to go, but it is definitely those are avenues that you can expand. And to be real honest, they will take time, though. So it's kind of a time and money trade-off, how much you want to spend on doing those things. They can be profitable. They need to be known how to utilize them as they're intended, and then you will get the biggest bang for your buck.
Well, I realize it's all about the profit, but given all you said, is this cost a gazillion dollars to put together?
That's a great word.
Is it a
A
word?
gazillion dollars.
Look it up on the dictionary or Wikipedia.
Well, you can spend a gazillion dollars on websites. I think a lot of times we associate websites, the first ones especially were built by graphic designers. Nothing wrong with that. They look good, they're very appealing, but a lot of times the graphic designers aren't salespeople and they don't understand what you are really concerned about. I like to tell business owners a lot of times, do you care how your website looks if you were making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars? And the answer as a business owner, of course, well, no, I'd rather make the money, because that's the primary focus. Now, to say that doesn't mean that we want ugly websites as well, but search engine optimization is more important than how it looks, because if nobody sees it, we don't really care how great it looks. There are certain times, you know, it's nice to pull out a card, oh, go visit my website, and then somebody comes, it looks great, everybody, you know, I like to call it well, my mom thinks it looks good, you know, I mean, you know, but we're not in the business of selling our moms, we're in the business, they already were sold on us day one.
There you go.
What we're interested in is watching that person pull their wallet out of their pocket and giving us cash. That's what we want to see happen. And so that happens really when we tell them what they want to know, what they're searching for. I have this problem. I have acne. I want to get rid of it. I have, you know, the water heater went out. I want to get it fixed. I want a great feeling pizza. I'm hungry. I want to go. I want to experience a new restaurant. Where's a great place to go? Those are the types of things that we want to get the website to do. So, having said that, you can go to the free route. There are free ones, we talked about them, that are just template driven. You just plug in the information, you have a website. Didn't even cost you a whole lot. Maybe some of them don't even cost you, like I said, if you're willing to piggyback on somebody else's website, it doesn't even cost you any money for the hosting or for the domain name. Again, but will they get found? Will they be search engine optimized? Not likely. I got started about 6 years ago with a business. Like I said, I coach kids in baseball. And I bought a program that cost me about $300 a year, which includes the domain name, it includes hosting. It actually includes an autoresponder. It includes some diagnostics on how to get search engine optimized. And it's done a great job for me. So that's a great way to go. You have to do more work than you had to do on the freebie. But at the same time, if you type in best hitting coach in the entire internet, just best hitting coach, you'll find that I show up #1 over anybody else in the world, and that's because it is search engine optimized. So it's pretty interesting what you can do with just some simple program. Now, some of you are looking and kind of with a glazed over look, and I don't want to do anything. I just want somebody like you to take care of it. And that's obviously what I do. I do that for businesses. There are other businesses that do it for me. There are people that will build you pretty websites that don't really understand this whole concept. They'll use the buzzword SEO, but again, you want to measure your number of phone calls, the number of people that emailed you, the number of people that converted into sales. That's the bottom line, and so that's, I think, you do get a little bit of what you pay for. So it kind of depends on how much, you know, time is money, how much you're willing to do, how much you're willing to learn. But it can be done for free all the way to a gazillion dollars if you want to pay that. But normally it won't be, you know, you can probably get in there in the $500 to a couple $1,000 range, depending on, and it really depends on how many pages. You know, obviously it takes more time to build one page as it does to build 5 or 15 or 50. So, you know, depending on their goals.
Yeah, it's a result saying that said it's not how much you spend, but how much you make.
Right.
And Andy, I know a lot of web designers, but I think the difference that our audience needs to understand is Andy's part salesperson because you pretty much grew up in a sales environment, but he understands web design. So Andy is all about driving business, and he gets that question a lot. And I've had privy to your curriculum and to other information, and I tell you folks, he is just touching the surface on that. And I'm glad he didn't give it all away, because there are some things he just talks about and how to drive business. So if you're asking the question, hey, will this get me business? Well, you know what? It'll do a better job than the traditional ways. That pretty much we can guarantee you, because you can actually track unique visitors, who's seen it, what areas, how long they've stayed on, have they gone on. None of the traditional medias can do that. And so I hope you'll watch this video, but also take some additional steps to learn more about this through some of Andy's curriculum that's available online. And your website again was?
Well, right now I've got andymycio.com, in addition to some others that are unrelated to the, internet business. So, like the website about the baseball.
Well, we thank you, Andy, for giving us so much information. But like I said, with my knowledge, you're just touching the surface. And you all out there need to sell something, right? So it's people like Andy and myself who can actually help you actually get to that point. So with that, Andy, do you have any closing comments? Because I know there's a lot in that head of yours, but let me just ask that question.
Well, again, just as a small business owner, I've been a small business owner, you care about one thing, and that's, how are we going to get the phone to ring? How are we going to get more business? And nowadays, you really do need to have an internet presence. And, I encourage you one way or the other. I'm not totally making this an infomercial about me. I'm just saying, you as a business owner, this is the way, this is where the whole future is going. It's not going to go away. You can't really put your head in the sand and say, you may have already gotten to that point of, I need this, but I need to go farther in that, and how can I do this? So, like you said, just Google something about how do I get a business started on the internet, or how do I, get my business on the internet, if you forget everything that we said, or, the bylines we've got rolling across the bottom now.
Well, I'll do an info commercial. I'll tell you one truth that does exist. All you out there who are watching, you need to do something different if you want to succeed in this new world order, the culture and what's going on. I don't think anybody should be afraid of anything unless they decide to do nothing, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, this is Andy Collins. Over to my right here, I'm Peter Godinez, your social media sales hero, and we hope you really enjoyed and this program was very helpful to you. So we bid you adieu.